Everyone sees the drunk stumbling home. No one sees you drowning in plain sight. You think you know what addiction looks like. The needle in the arm, the bottle hidden in the desk drawer, the credit cards maxed out on cocaine binges. But what if I told you the most devastating addiction of our time is invisible? What if the thing destroying your soul is the very thing society celebrates? You wake up every morning and inject yourself with something more powerful than heroin, more addictive than methamphetamine, more destructive than gambling. You inject yourself with other people's opinions. Look around. Everyone's performing, posting the perfect life, saying the right things, wearing the right clothes, dating the right people, building the right career. But here's the brutal truth. You've become addicted to being likable, and it's killing who you really are. This isn't about being polite or considerate. This is about the desperate, sweating need for approval that drives every decision you make. The invisible chain around your neck that tightens every time you say yes when you mean no. You see the alcoholics shaking hands, but you don't see your own trembling when someone might disapprove of you. You pity the gambler's empty wallet, but you ignore your empty soul traded away for temporary acceptance. The alcoholic knows they're sick. The gambler knows they're destroying themselves. But you think your sickness is virtue. You think your self-destruction is kindness. You're drowning in plain sight, and everyone's calling it swimming. Let me show you how deep this goes. Your brain lights up when someone approves of you, the exact same way it would light up if you snorted cocaine. The same reward pathways, the same dopamine flood, the same addictive cycle. But here's where it gets sinister. Society gave you this drug as a child and called it being good. Remember being 3 years old. You had opinions. You said no when you didn't want something. You cried when you were angry. You were beautifully, authentically selfish. Then the conditioning began. Good children don't get angry. Nice girls don't say no. Strong boys don't cry. Smart kids always please their teachers. So you learned. You learned that your authentic self was unacceptable. You learned that love was conditional on performance. You learned that survival meant becoming who others wanted you to be. Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear to be socially acceptable. But your mask became your prison. You wore it so long you forgot there was a face underneath. Now you're 30, 40, 50 years old, and you're still that desperate child seeking approval, still performing for love, still injecting yourself with validation from people who don't even know the real you, because there is no real you left. There's just the performance, the beautiful lie you tell so convincingly that even you believe it. You've become a master actor playing a role you hate in a play you never auditioned for, and the applause you crave is for someone else entirely. Your authentic self, your true desires, your real opinions, your genuine emotions, they're buried so deep you've convinced yourself they don't exist, but they do. They're screaming from the basement of your consciousness, begging to be heard. Every people-pleasing smile is a betrayal of that authentic self. Every time you agree when you disagree, you're committing psychological suicide one tiny cut at a time. You didn't choose this addiction. It was chosen for you by a system that profits from your compliance, by parents who needed you to be easy, by schools that rewarded conformity, by employers who value agreeability over authenticity. Think about it. What kind of employee does every corporation want? Someone who won't rock the boat. Someone who says yes to overtime without complaint. Someone who smiles through toxic management and calls it professionalism. What kind of partner does society tell you to be? Someone who doesn't have needs. Someone who always compromises. Someone who puts everyone else first and calls it love. What kind of citizen does every government prefer? Someone who follows rules without questioning them. Someone who values security over freedom. Someone who trades their voice for the illusion of safety. The system doesn't want you to be authentically you. It wants you to be a cog, predictable, controllable, dependent on external validation. Because dependent people don't rebel, But here's what Nietzsche understood. You are not just a product of your conditioning. You have the power to become who you choose to be, to create your own values, to live by your own rules. Yet instead of exercising this godlike power of self-creation, you've handed your identity to a committee of strangers. You let your mother define your career, your friends define your lifestyle, your culture define your beliefs. You've become a democracy where everyone gets a vote on who you should be, except you. Look at your life right now. Your job, your relationships, your goals, your daily choices. How much of this reflects what you actually want versus what you think you should want? You've spent so long performing the role of good person that you've forgotten what you actually believe. You've said yes to so many things you don't want that you've lost the ability to recognize what you do want. You've become the architect of your own cage, and you've built it so beautifully that people compliment your craftsmanship while you suffocate inside. Heroin addicts know they're sick. You think your sickness is virtue. Here's why this addiction is more dangerous than any drug. Society rewards it. People praise you for sacrificing yourself. They call your people-pleasing kindness. They mistake your self-abandonment for maturity. The heroin addict faces social shame. You face social celebration. The alcoholic loses friends. You gain them. Shallow, conditional friendships built on your performance of agreeability. This is why you never hit rock bottom. There's always someone telling you what a good person you are. Always someone benefiting from your inability to say no. Always validation for your self-destruction. But let me tell you what this virtue is actually doing to you. It's creating a shadow, a dark, repressed part of your psyche, where all your authentic desires go to die. Every time you smile when you're angry, that anger doesn't disappear. It goes into the shadow. Every time you say yes when you mean no, that resentment accumulates in the darkness. Every time you put others first when you should prioritize yourself, you feed the growing monster of unexpressed authenticity. This shadow doesn't stay quiet forever. It leaks out in passive aggression, in chronic fatigue, in depression that has no clear cause, in anxiety that feels existential, in relationships that feel empty despite being successful. You wonder why you feel dead inside, despite doing everything right, why you feel angry at people you're supposed to love, why you fantasize about running away from the life you've carefully constructed. It's because you've been slowly murdering your authentic self for years, and your psyche is in rebellion. Your soul is screaming, but you've trained yourself not to listen. The most tragic part? You think these symptoms mean you're ungrateful, broken, not spiritual enough, not positive enough. So you try harder to be good, which only feeds the addiction and deepens the shadow. The day you disappoint someone on purpose is the day you start getting your life back. But there is a way out, and it starts with the most terrifying thing you can imagine: disappointing someone on purpose. Not to be cruel, not to be selfish in the destructive way, but to be selfish in the sacred way. To choose your authentic self over their approval. Start small. Say no to something you don't want to do. Express an opinion you've been hiding. Set a boundary you've been afraid to set. Cancel plans when you need rest instead of forcing yourself to show up. Watch what happens. Feel the anxiety, the guilt, the voice in your head screaming that you're being mean or selfish. That's not your intuition talking. That's your addiction talking. It's withdrawal. Your brain will try to convince you that disappointing people is dangerous, that they'll leave you, that you'll be alone, that you're a bad person. These are lies your addiction tells you to keep you trapped. But here's what actually happens when you start choosing authenticity over approval. You discover who actually loves you versus who loves what you do for them. The people who leave when you set boundaries weren't really your people anyway. They were just beneficiaries of your people-pleasing. And the people who stay, they respect you more, they trust you more, because finally, when you say yes, they know you mean it. Your words have weight again, because they're chosen, not compulsive. You start to remember what you actually like, what you actually believe, what you actually want. It's like meeting yourself for the first time in years. This is how you rewire your brain's reward system. Instead of getting dopamine from their approval, you start getting it from your own integrity. Instead of feeling high when others are happy with you, you feel high when you are honest with yourself. The external validation becomes nice, but not necessary. You become internally powered instead of externally dependent. This is the difference between confidence built on sand and confidence built on bedrock. Your monster isn't your shadow, it's your potential wearing a mask. Now we get to the real magic. All those parts of yourself you've been suppressing, your anger, your ambition, your selfishness, your wildness, these aren't bugs to be eliminated, they're features to be integrated. Your anger isn't evil. It's your inner compass telling you when your boundaries are being violated. Your selfishness isn't wrong. It's your survival instinct protecting your energy and authenticity. Your wildness isn't chaos. It's your life force refusing to be tamed by mediocrity. Jung called this shadow integration, the process of reclaiming the rejected aspects of your personality, not to become destructive, but to become whole, not to hurt others, but to stop hurting yourself. When you integrate your shadow, something miraculous happens. You stop needing others to complete you because you're complete within yourself. You stop seeking validation because you validate yourself. You stop people-pleasing because you're not afraid of your own power. This is what authentic confidence looks like, not the ego-driven confidence that needs to prove itself constantly, but the quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly who they are and doesn't need your permission to be it. People sense this. They're drawn to it like moths to flame, not because you're trying to be magnetic, but because you're not trying to be anything other than yourself. Authenticity is the ultimate aphrodisiac. It's the difference between attraction based on performance and attraction based on presence. When you stop hiding from yourself, others stop looking right through you. When you stop abandoning yourself, others stop taking you for granted. When you stop betraying your own needs, the universe stops betraying you. Your integrated shadow becomes your superpower. Your former people-pleasing energy transforms into genuine compassion, not the kind that comes from fear of disapproval, but the kind that comes from overflow of self-love. You become dangerous in the best way. Dangerous to systems that depend on your compliance. Dangerous to relationships built on your diminishment. Dangerous to the old version of yourself that traded authenticity for acceptance. Every authentic choice is a small death of who you thought you had to be. This transformation isn't comfortable. It's not supposed to be. You're killing who you were to birth who you're meant to be. And death is never easy. Even the death of a false self. People will mourn the old you. The version that said yes to everything. The version that never had needs. The version that made their lives easier at the expense of your own soul. They'll try to resurrect the people-pleaser through guilt, manipulation, and emotional blackmail. You've changed, they'll say. And they're right. You have changed. You've stopped being who they needed you to be and started being who you actually are. This threatens them because your authenticity reminds them of their own inauthenticity. Some relationships won't survive your transformation. This is grief. But it's necessary grief. You can't take everyone with you into your authentic life. Some people are only compatible with your false self. But here's what no one tells you about this identity death. It's the most liberating thing you'll ever experience, because you realize that the person you thought you were never actually existed. It was just a performance, a costume, a survival strategy that outlived its usefulness. The real you, the one emerging from the ashes of your people-pleasing self, has been waiting your entire life to be born. This isn't you becoming someone new. This is you finally becoming who you've always been underneath the masks. You start making decisions based on your own values instead of their expectations. You start building a life that fits your soul instead of their image of who you should be. You start attracting people who love you for your authenticity instead of your agreeability. This is individuation, Jung's term for becoming who you truly are instead of who others want you to be. It's the hero's journey. It's spiritual awakening. It's psychological resurrection.